Welcome to the Oscoda Township regular board meeting of January 13th, 2020. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Cummings.
Here.
Ms. McGuire.
Here.
Mr. Gieske.
Here.
Mr. Palmer absent. Mr. Nordine here. Mr. Byer.
Here.
Mr. Weed.
Here. We have any agenda additions or changes? Is there a motion for the agenda?
I'll move that we accept the agenda.
Support.
Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Gieske. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, motion passes. We're now into our first public comment period. For this first one, a comment card needs to be filled out, submitted to the superintendent, and there's a 4-minute time limit. When you come to the podium, make sure you introduce yourself. Do you have any cards?
We do. We have Robert Jackson about the phone wiring and system at the Township Hall. Yep, if you go to the podium.
My name's Robert Jackson. I'm here about your phone system that's going into City Hall. As you see, I passed out some information, or would like to have some information on what the system is. Basically, the first thing that I would really want to know is, like number 6 on the agenda that I gave you, there was a statement by Tim Cummings and Dave Schaefer that the system was inadequate, out of date, and can't be fixed, which is, I don't know where they got that information, because if you look up the system's been around since 1997, and it's had 8 current updates. Equipment can still be purchased and replaced. So why you're spending all this money, I don't know why. I'm also the technician that's been working on your system for over the last 5 years. I was never contacted that you guys were going to be upgrading or anything. You know, I don't know what problems you've had or you're having. Nobody has contacted me to let me know to fix anything. I've talked to some people at City Hall, and there is no problems. So, you know, that's one of the main things. Also, was this phone system including the police department, or is it just the City Hall's police or equipment? I don't know. I've tried to get a hold of Tim Cummings within the last, 3 weeks or so. He's a hard man to get because he's only got an email. You can't contact him by phone like the rest of you guys. He contacted me back on Friday, left a voicemail on my phone, but it came up as a private number, so I didn't answer it at first because I thought it was a salesperson. Well, the email said he would get back to me. On Saturday, I waited for a phone call, never got a phone call. I sent him another email yesterday, Sunday. Still didn't get a contact, so that's why I'm here. And I know you can't give me all this information tonight, but if you would look it over and get back with me, I'd appreciate it.
I had a question at the time we talked about this. If there's real strong talk about moving out of the Township Hall to a different location.
Yeah, why spend?
Yeah, and but the answer I got made some sense, is that it's not that expensive, if I recall, and also some of it can be used, transferred.
Okay. According to me, what I read in your paper, because I get the paper sent to me. I don't live up here year round.
Okay.
Okay, my residence is down in Detroit area. I read that there was $46,000 was the bid or whatever for the system. I don't know what that all involves. One of your citizens was told that $20,000, let me see if I can read it, that $24,000 was basically for the wiring, and the rest was for the equipment. And sure, you can take the equipment from one building to another building, but why are you replacing a system if it isn't failing right now? If it was failing, I could see replacing the phone system. The wiring, as far as the computers and that, I can't say that it was any good or as bad. I know there was problems with the wiring. That could be updated, but why change your phone system? If you're leaving in 2 years, why not update at that time?
Thank you very much.
Gotcha.
Have any other cards?
Yes, we have Rick Koenig about code enforcement.
Hello, my name is Rick Koenig, resident of Oscoda. I live in Lakewood Shores. I came here this last July. Problem that we were having with Lakewood Shores, dumping concrete, blocks, everything like that. I got some pictures here that I just took today and had them done at Alexander Business. They seem to be making some effort to try to clean this up, but again, this is going on almost 18 months. And
Is this new stuff?
that's today. I took that today. Yeah.
I know the pictures are new,
pictures are
but
new.
this is new material?
Yeah. Yep. If anybody wants to go out there and look at it, and I'm gonna read real quick. This will probably take my minutes, but this was a conversation that I got this from Mark David, and this is a conversations between Mr. Schaefer and Mr. Brightson. They had a call to check on something on 10/8 of 18. Right away in the morning, I checked and found the piles of debris were still there. In fact, the piles of shingles had doubled in size. They go to 10/15. I noticed the pile of shingles again have doubled in size. I called Rick York and asked what was going on. He said he'd removed about a third of the piles, but was too busy to finish with the other one. I checked the first pile and found some cement blocks had been removed, nothing close to a third of the pile. I went to the second pile and found it had almost doubled in size, with pine tree branches and tree trunks. On my way out, I ran into a security officer's homeowners association that stated they buried a lot of wood and demolished the barn under the new pine trees. He said they had hidden the lumber underneath the trim. I could go on and read this whole thing. I'm gonna just skip to so you can see what's going on between them and Lakewood. It says back in July 8 of 18, they had a phone conversation about the barn being collapsed and some illegal dumping. A phone call was made to Rick York from employees and told about the issue. He said he'd take care of it. On July 25th, he checked. Only the tires had been removed. The debris was still there. August 7th, another pile had been started. He was informed by Mr. York that a payloader and trucks were coming to remove both piles. Still not done. And the only thing that he says here is attached is a civil citation for the offense of failing to comply and clean the Dumping Building Material Act. The fine is $100 to be paid in Oscoda. Since he's gotten that, which shows here a copy of the ticket he received, was for $100, and this was issued on 10/26 of 18. So we're going on over a year, close to a year and a half of him not complying and nothing being done about it. I've talked to individual members of the board. Jamie, I've talked to Mr. Byer, Mr. Nordine, I've talked to you, and they've came out and seen it, as well as, obviously I got a ton of pictures. But I don't know who's in charge or who to go to next. I don't know if Mark David is completely in charge of this or if Mr. Schaefer is. But anyways, I can't get in touch with anybody that will help me with this situation at all. I've been down there. I've tried to talk to them. I went down there today just to try to get another complaint that I had filed. They haven't received, or they received it, but they haven't done anything about it yet. So to me, I'm just getting the runaround in this situation. You guys are the board, so you are the one that oversees them. If they're not doing their job, which according to those pictures and everything, you can tell they're not, I'd like to know why. Why is the law not being followed? If that trash is out there, and that's been out there for over a year, can I take my trash out there personally and break it? No, that'd be violating the law, which is what Lakewood Shores is doing. And all you've done for them is send them one $100 fine, and that's it? The guy's a multi-millionaire. I've seen citizens get fined more than that for having something in their yard without a license plate on it. But this is 6 months now. I don't know where else to go with this. I'd be happy to hear any.
Can I ask a couple of questions? Or not? These are quickies.
Sure.
You mentioned
Never
Rick
quick.
York, I think.
Yes.
It said material from the collapsed barn was hidden under the trees.
Yes.
That's his word or yours?
That's according to this statement, which I got from the township. And regarding.
So you didn't hear him say that?
No, I'm reading that Mr. Schaefer and Mr. Brightson
Yeah.
talked to him. And that's what this says. They have talked to him and they noticed that nothing was being done. In fact, it was getting added on to. More things were getting added on to this.
Okay. And my second question is, the last time I talked to you, we ran into each other
Yes.
at Gilbert's.
Yes, sir.
And you seemed like a happy camper at that time. Right?
Yes, sir.
Things were going well.
Well, they had started, as you can see, digging the pile on it.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to get some headway, but they didn't even burn the pile this fall. That's what they do. They push it till the next time. Now I'm sure I'll be told they'll be done in the spring, till it gets too hot. But if the people that are in charge can't.
Do you have any further questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Have any other cards?
Yes, we have Dawn Barber about Furtaw. Anybody can go up to second.
Okay. Happy New Year to everyone. It's now 2020, and it's time to make decisions. And we're really waiting, Mr. Weed, for you had said that you were going to make a decision and let people know about Furtaw Field, and you haven't done that yet.
That's not what I said. Please continue, though. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that. Anyway, the point of it is that you had made a remark at the pavilion that you were going to say something or do something, and I think it's time. It's actually time for us to start making plans on how to do the park that needs to be done there instead of concentrating on the other thing. I think there's enough issues in this town right now and problems that, thinking about building on Furtaw Field is. You already know that the community is against it. At least 80% of the community or more is against it. I have a friend that just called, and I'm ready to put out another 100 signs if you want me to fill the whole town up. Maybe start a demonstration or a rally or whatever it is. But all we're waiting for is for you to say it. The community you want people to come to your meetings, and you say that you want the community to be involved. And then when we get involved, you act like you're ignoring us. And, I really do believe that right now it's time to make some type of decision. This has been going on a long time, and people are upset and they want to know what's going to happen. And this is actually the best time to start making plans to see what we can do with Furtaw Field, And also I had a question about the community center. There was $295 that it's $295,000 that it sold for. Why not take that $295,000 and take another building on the base and have a smaller community center that will work for the young people? And as far as we already know, as far as the library here, you're not going to have a quiet, calm library, what you want to do to it. And if you put a senior center over where you want to do to it, you're going to want to tell the seniors what to do, when to do, and how to do it, and they're not going to like that either. So what I'm trying to say is that why don't you just rebuild where you're at, do what you need to do there, and let us work on Fertile Field to put it into something that would be nice for the community and look nice on 23. And, you know, I just think that we're into a new year, and it's time that the people should know what you're going to do. This has just been going on a long time, and I just think it's time. So I would appreciate it if maybe you could say something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other cards?
That's it.
All right, then on for the consent agenda. Any comments regarding the payment of bills for $430,763.38? Any comments regarding the minutes? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
Support.
Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Gajewski. Roll call?
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes, Mr. Gajewski.
Yeah.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Subcommittee report project updates, the recabling project in the phone system.
Sure, timely topic. All right, so I'll give an update, and I'll also answer some of the questions posed earlier by... I'm done.
You're done. Your 4 minutes are up.
So, the recabling project, essentially, since it doesn't look like Mr. Jackson was ever watching the videos that we take of the meeting, just getting information secondhand, the information that we have here is that there's a recabling because we had to deal with the network, and as everyone in Township Hall knows, there's been frayed cables that have been turned into rat's nests under people's desks. There's been a variety of ills that have plagued the stability of the internal network. That is separate from the phone system itself. The phone system is a separate topic. The phone system has been a problem and I was approached about the phone system when folks at the Township Hall said they've been having trouble with it. It was folks like Tammy, Dave, yourself in particular, Jamie. Your extension hadn't worked, and I'm not sure that it even works today. I've understood it was flaky. So the problem, these are all points that were brought out long ago when we first discussed the beginning of this project and how we even thought that this project was valid to begin with, before any money at all was even spent. So the conclusion as to why the equipment was considered to be not repairable is actually a generality. The point is that we have not been able to successfully manage this system between our current vendor who provides service and Charter who provides the phones into that system. So dropped calls,
No calls.
no calls, calls that you can't receive, like you say. These are the problems that we've been having, and they haven't stopped for the duration of this project. Now, I will remind the board that prior to me getting involved with this project, I was told that we had asked our service vendor to come up and try to fix problems like the ones we've just described. But it has turned into it's not the phone system problem, it's Charter. And then when we pay to bring Charter out, Charter says it's not our problem, it's the phone system problem. And so we've repeatedly gotten into this back and forth of basically no solution. So what we've done, just to be clear as to what the solution here is now, is we are not in a utility situation here. We're not simply getting a utility of phone or internet.
We've enlisted a professional services contract with a company who happens to own the fiber that runs right by Township Hall. This is nothing that needed to go out to bid. Didn't have to. It was a decision that was made because of who was available and the ownership and the service that they were going to be able to give us. And in my famous quote that everybody laughs about, it gives the township one throat to choke if something doesn't work. So when we move the phone system that we currently have out and we then go into what's called a cloud phone system, meaning we're going to get our phone service through the internet, that particular service will depend entirely on the internal network, the wiring that we've spent some time replacing these last couple months. And then the phone system will be phone devices sitting on people's desk and something called a cloud PBX, meaning years ago, the PBX, like we have sitting in a closet right now, is the old one, the old type that you have. It's an old approach where you have the phone system in a closet in a rack or in some sort of whatever size you happen to have. It could be for a small office, could be for a big one. Ours is for a pretty good size. And we've got it stuck on the wall, and that's where it is. And there's a whole lot of crazy wiring in that closet. When you go in and look at it, it's a rat's nest of its own. Now, that would no longer be used, and its counterpart or replacement would be out in, quote unquote, the cloud. Now, the cloud is just a marketing term to make it simple for folks who don't know what IT stands for or how to spell it. The concept is simply that the service of managing our phone system is provided by a vendor out on the internet. And we get our internet, through the internet traffic, we get our phone calls and we place our calls the same way. It also opens up a couple of possibilities, like for example, since we are not one building in our township, we are multiple buildings. We have DPW, we used to have, to the point earlier, we used to have the community center. We have Old Orchard, and we also have pump stations and other kind of remote phone devices or phone lines. We also have internet down at the beach park, where we have service or security cameras that tell us what's going on. So we have internet and phone in different locations throughout this township for the purpose of running the township or securing it. So all this system is going to do is permit us the ability to get internet where we need it, and also to put phones where we want them and not have them tied to having to have an old style PBX in a closet. We will have some more flexibility. Now, the initial cost of roughly $20-some thousand for the recabling, yeah, we laid down something on the order of magnitude of 130-some drops, meaning from our point in the attic over the police department, emanating out to throughout the township hall. Some of those runs were very long. I mean, very long. Our township hall is not a small building when you have to kind of go up, down, and around and get from one part to another, especially since it was built onto. So those lines all are complete and they're all terminated, meaning they all have nice little jacks on the end and they're all sitting upstairs in the attic, and they're ready to be connected to. And in fact, some weeks ago, we switched over to the new cabling to get everyone off the old cabling, still with the old internet connection and still with the old phone system, but to stabilize network trouble and to help clean up everyone's offices. I have a picture, by the way, John, after hours of all the wire that came out from underneath your desk just in this cleanup project alone. Yours, the assessor's, and the treasurer's office were no different. So the additional money, that roughly, $12,000, $13,000, something thereabout, some of that's going to be handsets. The handsets are actually relatively inexpensive, roughly about $80, $90 each. We're getting them at cost. So that's a hard cost or a hard price for anyone to beat. We've upgraded the size and bandwidth of our internet connection from what's considered 100 megabit connection from Charter, which really isn't 100 megabits, and it's very hard to share because when you're trying to send on a Charter connection, you can't at the same time receive. That's the way those connections work. This is part of the bogusness of Charter, of cable companies trying to tell you how much speed and bandwidth you're really getting, and you're really not. And if you ever do a speed test, you'll always notice that the upload and the download tests are done sequentially, not at the same time, so it masks the problem. In our case, we're going to be on fiber, which means we will be able to simultaneously upload and download. So even though we are on a 50 megabit fiber connection, it's going to be much more, we'll get much more throughput than we would on the old Charter connection, which was a choke point for everybody, and particularly the police department, who had trouble trying to get their police reports completed and often had to resort to doing them overnight when everybody else in the township was home. So that is essentially that. Now, more back to the update here. Okay, so so today, ATI, the vendor, they permanently powered up the fiber along River Road to Township Hall. It's no longer, they had done preliminary tests earlier. This is now powered up. They were doing stability tests. They're going to be doing quality of service tests for the next week. And roughly around the 15th or 16th of this month, that's the approximate date, we're not sure exactly when, we're going to have another meeting with them. And at this point, that's going to determine whether or not the service is stable, we're good, that we feel confident that we can then go to Charter and say, thank you very much for your service and your expensive phone lines and crappy internet. And we're going to ask for a 10-day port, which is basically a request for them to end the service at the Charter end and hand it over to ATI, who will pick up those phone numbers. And then with that all happening on the same day, because it'll be one package, we will then be able to schedule a day with ATI and with IT Right, and they'll come out and we'll not only have, we'll switch over to the internet, and then we'll have another day, maybe in a week thereafter, we'll have the phone system come in. So essentially, I'm looking at maybe around 1st of February at this point, when that phone system could be switched over. But in the meantime, we'll be up on the new internet, the faster internet with the old system. That'll be the first step that we'll see first. So that's where we are right now, and if we can get the phone system in any sooner, I will certainly be pushing for that for everyone's sake. Right now, just to be clear, I've been deeply involved in how the phone system is going to be set up and making sure that we have automated attendance scripted and ready to be put in place for not just the phones, the Township Hall, but also for the police department. That'll help with basic call direction and flow of communication. But also, we'll have for the first time an actual directory that you can get through your phone. You'll see who, if you want to look by name, you can see what their extension number is going to be. You'll have the ability to manage far more calls, whether they be calls coming in or on hold or going out. All of those are equal as calls than we've ever been able to manage before with the system we have today. We'll be at a minimum of 23 calls now, with the intention to expand the system as we get to Old Orchard and they become simply another node that we add into our system, and those additional extensions will be added. DPW, same thing when they get added in. So I mean, there's a lot of growth here. Now, to the point that Jim mentioned earlier, and I appreciate you recalling that, yes, the equipment can move. The equipment is really, ironically, not the biggest investment here. I mean, when you look at the cost of the overall project, the primary cost was the wiring for Township Hall. That wasn't foreseen a year and a half ago when this entire project started and we started having difficulties. Getting new fiber in is a long process. It's something I've experienced with clients that I've worked with when I lived in California and worked in entertainment. You know, it can take a year. We had some other delays along the way, but roughly speaking, we're right on target for what it typically takes to get a brand new fiber connection brought up. And this was brand new. This had never even been lit before. So this was definitely something that's important. Let's see. And then also I just want to mention that not only do we have this one particular fiber that we're using from ATI, but ATI has also enlisted a fallback fiber connection through AT&T, which is coming off of Dwight Street. Both of those connections are converging on the back of Township Hall. So we have fault-tolerant connection now. I mean, unless there's something cataclysmic that wipes out two separate fiber connections from two separate directions, we will not have any trouble, which I think is an important point. We want to move to another township location, that's fine. We just pick up our equipment and leave. If we want to sell the building or we want to use the building, that fiber's, those network connections that we put in are just part of the asset of the building, just like plumbing and anything else we do to it. So I'm hoping that that's helpful. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm glad to hear. I wasn't way out in left field when I said two things. Your comment was it is not really that expensive.
That's right.
And part of the system is movable
Yes, that's correct.
to a new location.
That's right. Absolutely right. You were great.
I thought you were going to
Great
throw
recollection.
something at me.
No, not at all. No, not at all. It was great recollection. You did great. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the number of, when you actually, to be more specific and about the relative cost of this system to the old one, as we get rid of the old Charter phone lines, we recoup the cost of what we've been paying Charter, and that plus other basic costs. This system will run about the same amount of money as the old system did, okay? But we have far more phone devices than we ever did. We have the extensibility, the ability to build onto the system that we never had before. We weren't going to run cables from Old Orchard down River Road to plug into our phone system at Township Hall. And it's frankly, it's new. I mean, it's like, yeah, the system may not have been antiquated. It just was extremely unreliable, not dependable, and any other words that we at Township Hall have thrown around amongst ourselves. That's it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Everything you told us a year ago.
Basically right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
All right, Road and Sidewalk Committee meeting.
All right, so a Road and Sidewalk Committee meeting was held here at the library last Friday, the 10th at 10 a.m. Wanted to let the board know, this is all in the packet for the Road and Sidewalk Committee, but basically wanted to give an overview of the Road Improvement Fund 203. In 2019, the beginning fund balance in Fund 203 is the Road Improvement Fund. We started with a fund balance of $48,888. And after everything is taken out for the appropriations in 2020, that leaves about $79,000, just shy of $80,000 as far as total available resources for, say, sidewalk projects and road improvement projects. Now, we do have quotes that were provided to residents on Huntington and Concord, and that's actually comes to an intersection. So there are quotes that were provided to those residents from the Road Commission in May of 2019. At that point, they were waiting for the outcome of the road millage, and in August and November, the road millage failed. So at this point, they are interested in updating those quotes as far as getting an update based on the price of hot mix asphalt with the Road Commission to be able to come back associated. And again, the way road improvements have historically been funded, it's been 30% contribution from the Iosco County Road Commission, and then that 70% remaining has been split between special assessments from the residents and Oscoda Township contributions from the Road Improvement Fund 203. So as we get updated quotes and we move through this process, this is not a quick process to move through the notices and the public hearings required. We will be bringing those quotes back to the board.
And Huntington and Concord are a couple of streets in Lakewood Shores. It's a part of Huntington. Huntington is a long street, and most of it's been paved in the last 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. But just so you know where they are.
All right, Economic Improvement Director update.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Todd Dickerson. I am, in fact, your Economic Improvement Director. Thanks for having me tonight. I first want to applaud the board for all the work that you put in, and also the public participation process that you all have gone through, even before you thought about hiring me. It's very helpful coming to a position like this when you kind of know what the marching orders are and what the tasks are. So from that process, I was given 3 documents. A document from MEDC for the revitalization readiness community, the RRC certification, and that has a whole list of tasks involved with it, and then our implementation plans, one for the township and then one specifically for downtown. So this is my Bible. This is my to-do list that I have to go through every day when I come in. The update that I've provided to you sort of follows that. I want to be extremely transparent. Some of this is data-driven. Some of the other stuff's a little grayish matter because you're not sure what your prospects are thinking or where you might go to. But starting off with the RRC, that includes a total of about 39 tasks that we're given from the MEDC. We have a portal that we use. Very hard to duplicate that portal in a report form. But there's 39 tasks, and to date, we've completed 10 of those tasks. We have 1 task that we've submitted for review for authorization. We have 10 more in process, and then we have a basket of about 18 that haven't been started yet. So it's a very involved process. 8 of those 18 are really tied to what we call the Guide to Development, and that will be part of, I think, maybe in a couple of weeks, we'll be coming to the board for approval on consulting services to complete that. But that's a couple of months process all by itself, and it takes care of about 8 of our tasks. My best guess, the timetable to complete the RRC is somewhere between 12 and 18 months. I think 12 months is achievable if we can get through the website upgrade process in a sort of timely and efficient manner. I think that's going to be the biggest and the longest hurdle to get through because everybody's got an opinion on what the website should look like and what it needs to address, and so I can see that being a public sort of process that's going to take a little more time than a few of us just saying, yep, that's what it's going to look like, and here you go. So I think that's really the biggest barrier to getting the RRC behind us and achieving that. And other than that, some of the marketing support materials that will be presented to you for your consideration tonight are part of getting that RRC. On to the play sleep strategy update. Again, a little more data driven. We got a total of 11 categories that run across several different items. In those 11 categories, we've got 43 different tasks that have to be achieved. Of those, right now, we've really only got 1 completed, but we do have 20 already that I've started since I've gotten here, 9-10 weeks ago. So I like to use the cliche that the ship is leaving the harbor. It's afloat and we're making waves. The last several weeks that I've been on board, I've spent a considerable amount of time working with the vacant building registry, trying to understand what truly is vacant in downtown, other buildings that we have really throughout the community, because from that we'll get square footage identifiers, like what's the percent that we have vacant, who are the building owners, how can we resource, to get those buildings filled, and that all takes time. The Michigan Launch Initiative, I won't steal Superintendent Schaefer's thunder here, but we are expecting some sort of word or announcement on January 27th. As previously reported, we thought it was going to be January 22nd, and now it's going to be on the 27th. I'm happy to report that we've had actually some developer activity in the last few weeks. We've engaged with a couple of different developers, which has led to 2 leads that we are presently working on. Both of those have been housing related. Could be multifamily, could be single family homes. We're really not quite sure yet. As you know, we were also considering an offer for the Pine Street property, and that buyer has since, I think, retreated. Who knows, maybe they'll come back, but we're not considering that one a lead anymore. Other engagements, I'll be supporting the Airport Authority in their MCOG SEDS process. So they've invited me to be a participant on their behalf. That meeting is on Wednesday. And one of the bigger undertakings, I think one of the more important items in economic development is what we call BRNE, Business Retention and Expansion. We've started to make those calls to get one-on-one appointments with that's really more in the industry and the manufacturing space than it is commercial development or retailers. So definitely making progress there. And we've spent, I would say, a considerable amount of time with the CBB and the Chamber trying to bridge partnerships with them, collaboration, how can we all work better as a team. So that's the overall. In the downtown space, 7 categories equaling 51 tasks. We've got kind of 5 completed and checked off, another one in process. A lot of what drives those tasks and our accomplishments there are engaging with the downtown business owners and giving my start date of early November, Thanksgiving, then Christmas. I haven't pressed that, let the holidays get behind us. First quarter, I'll put a big emphasis on what we can achieve there. But again, it's going to take a lot of involvement from those business owners to see what visions they have for their downtown and how we can collaborate with them. Out of our activities, though, I can tell you we're working on 3 projects for downtown. Can't give you a lot more information other than that, but there is positive activity. And the last item, number 3, is the digital marketing services, and of course, Mr. Schaefer will present that to you here later in the meeting. That is my update.
You are going to Cape Canaveral with?
Yes, that's part of the MAMA update.
I missed it. What did you say is going to occur in January 27th or 28th?
That will be the date we hope to hear the announcement for the launch, the Spaceport Initiative, the MLI, the Michigan Launch Initiative.
Well, then why are you going in early February there?
Because that will be after that announcement.
Yeah.
And we would go after that. Hopefully, we've been awarded some components of those businesses.
Uh-huh.
And we want to go down there to meet these investors.
That's not a final decision. That's only for the Michigan selections.
Okay.
Then it goes to the FAA for the final decision. So that's why the trip to Florida is important for us to make those connections.
Yeah, it's twofold. It's to show our support for the project.
Yep.
Be the leading community in that effort, and then also to make other connections down there with the investors, the end users, to make sure that we can recruit them to want to do business here in the community.
I'm not a pessimist, or I don't want to appear to be one, but what if they announce in late January that everything is going to go to Traverse City or Sault Ste. Marie, and we are totally stiffed on that? Are you still going to go to Florida?
Then we canceled our hotel reservations, and I haven't bought my plane ticket yet.
Okay.
No harm, no foul.
All right. Hope that doesn't happen.
Me too. Other questions?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, the next Economic Improvement Committee meeting is tomorrow at 3 o'clock at the library. And update on the MLI.
All right, so as the the Economic Improvement Director alluded, Monday, 2 weeks from today, we are hopeful to hear what that will be site selection announcement. And again, those are the Michigan sites. We had to respond to the Michigan Launch Initiative request for information for both the horizontal and the vertical launch. So at that point, on the 27th, I know MAMA, the Michigan Aerospace Manufacturers Association, has been working with the state to be able to coordinate an announcement on those sites to be selected. And so on the 27th, we hope to formally understand if Oscoda has been selected for the vertical or the horizontal launch licensure. And so at that point, that site would be selected. And again, the trip to Cape Canaveral is associated with meeting with NASA, meeting with other companies that are within the spaceport ecosystem as far as what it takes to be able to have a licensed spaceport operations. So on the 27th, 2 weeks from today, hopefully we hear some sort of news to be able to report at the next board meeting 2 weeks from today.
Then on to the reports. Advertise the RFP for digital marketing services.
All right, so the Economic Improvement Director alluded to as far as the advertising for the RFP for digital marketing services. This initiative helps support the efforts of the MEDC's Redevelopment Ready Community Certification, the Township's Economic Development Strategy, and the Downtown Redevelopment Strategy. Your packet contains the proposed RFP for digital marketing services to be advertised, a matrix detailing the supported tasks the initiative progresses, and the bid form to be completed by the vendors. This has been budgeted in the 2020 appropriations for the Property Operations and Maintenance Fund 236 within 236-266-801.000 for professional services. If approved, the recommended vendor proposal will be presented to the Township Board for approval at the regularly scheduled board meeting on the 10th of February.
Any comments?
There's a reference in the RFP under section 4, micro website, like third line down, it says pertaining to its community prosperity mission, that being the township's, I believe, community prosperity mission. What's that reference to? That was a term I was unfamiliar with. Yeah.
Are you asking about the community prosperity piece or the microsite?
The community prosperity mission reference.
Yeah. So in the RRC, there are several tasks that specify, what your strategy is regarding community prosperity.
Okay.
And one of those tasks, there's the overall website that has to be redone, but within that, there's an economic improvement, or generally speaking, an economic development portal that you would go into. And so our strategy is to create that portal first because it fulfills the guide to development, lots of other, it fulfills a lot of these other tasks. So if we complete that first, we build it then out, and then we'll finalize the whole system with the overall website.
Sure.
But yeah, and then the RRC, very specific task, thou shalt, and it's community prosperity, thou shalt, community prosperity.
So it's an inner detail within RRC.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. And my only other, well, I guess maybe two. One, under qualifications, I think it's looking for an answer, a quote to be submitted by January 31st of 2020. And it references 2019, just a point, just a note.
Okay.
And then secondly, what is the expectation for costs? I know we're going out to bid to get costs, but do we have a ballpark on
If I gave you a ballpark, I would be wrong one way or the other.
Okay. and I
If I say, gosh, I'd like this, all of these things to come in at 20 to 30, it'll come in at 50 and you'll be mad at me for, guessing real low. And if I say it's going to be 75, everybody's going to jump off the bridge and maybe it's only going to be 20 or 30. So
I can understand and respect that. I've done some research around. I'm not going in blind, so I
I'll be
appreciate
wrong.
I appreciate that.
Any other comments? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the digital marketing services RFP to be advertised.
Support.
Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call?
Mr. Gieske,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. The Mama Michigan Launch Initiative Delegation.
All right, so your packet contains a string of emails concerning the Michigan Aerospace Manufacturing Association, or MAMA, delegation to Cape Canaveral, Florida, from Tuesday, February 4th through Friday, the 7th. Oscoda Wurtsmith Airport Authority representatives for this MAMA delegation are Gary Kellen and David Daly. The Oscoda private sector will also be represented in the MAMA delegation. The new timeline for MAMA site selection announcement for both the vertical and horizontal launch will be Monday, January 27th, requesting that the board approve travel expenses not to exceed $4,800 associated with airfare, hotel, car rental, and per diem for the Economic Improvement Director and the Superintendent to participate in the MAMA delegation in Cape Canaveral. This is to be paid out of Property O&M, Fund 236-266-890. The tentative plan would be to travel to Cape Canaveral Tuesday, February 4th, and travel back the evening of Friday, February 7th, or later, depending on the availability of flights. If approved, board members should note that I will not be able to attend the regularly scheduled 9 a.m. work session on Friday, February 7th in the library, and this request requires Township Board approval.
Any comments?
It says in here, Oscoda private sector will also be represented.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Right, who?
Yeah, and who?
So there are companies that are obviously interested in spaceport operations. Though companies associated with maintenance and overhaul here in Oscoda are very interested in the horizontal launch associated with the spaceport licensure.
Okay.
Heavy aircraft, maintenance and operation.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the travel expenses not to exceed $4,800 for the township to participate in the MAMA delegation in Cape Canaveral.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Ms. McGuire.
This
Roll call.
amount covers delegates from Oscoda Township that are going. It doesn't cover the airport authority.
No.
No, that's just,
Any other comments? Roll call?
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
yes.
Mr. Gieske,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Advertise for bids for a fire truck.
All right, so the fire department has been diligently working to complete the new fire truck specifications during the fourth quarter of 2019 that are detailed in the 98-page document within your packet. Your packet also contains my December 20th, 2019 email to the Township Board outlining the process to acquire the new fire truck included in the Township's 2020 appropriations. Be paid out of the Fire Department Equipment Fund 206 000-981.000. I've been working with the Osable Township Superintendent to understand if it will be possible for the fire department to maximize the available discounts by paying for the truck 100% upfront. The formal advertisement of the fire truck specifications requires Township Board approval, and if approved, the recommended vendor proposal would be presented to the Township Board at the regularly scheduled meeting the 27th of January, later this month, 2 weeks from today. So as the fire chief indicated at the work session last Friday, basically, the prices go up in February. So if we have the truck ordered and is approved by the board, we still get this year's prices. After February, that goes up about $16,000. So I'm trying to be able to understand the vendors, the timing, the discounts associated with the other vendors last time we purchased a truck from 2013. Right now, we've heard back from Pierce associated with the last fire truck that was purchased in 2013. So basically, we would be asking for the sealed bids to come back on the 24th, that Friday before. We'd open them up and be able to present to the board on the 27th.
Comments?
Dave, I just thought of something. What about, will we have to go out for bids for the banking, for the loan for that? Are we going to just,
We're going to try to pay it all up front.
oh, okay.
And that would be a combination of Fund 206, so the available resources in 206. We've already had conversations with Asable. They've agreed to pay $147,000 during 2020 on a monthly basis. If it's going to mean getting a better discount on the truck, they have a inherent interest in getting the best discount on the truck. And instead of paying us that $147,000 monthly, they could be able to put it down and we could just buy the truck.
Approximately how many vendors are you going to contact for
Right now, there's 3 that I have been able to contact. So Apollo, Senthrop, and Pierce are the major manufacturers of fire trucks.
Does the fire chief have a preference?
The fire chief has been working to put out the specifications associated with the fire truck. So it's about 98 pages in there of what they want on that truck. And it's technical, but basically they don't want that. They don't want to replace the smaller truck. They purchased that smaller truck because they had to purchase that smaller truck, and they want a full-size 34-foot truck, as in the other ones that they have, to put into that response rotation.
Are they going to sell a used truck?
The smaller truck.
The smaller truck.
That would be the plan.
Is
It takes approximately 8 to 10 months to get the truck ordered, get the truck built. So in that 8 to 10 months between we've ordered the truck and we know what we're getting, in between getting the new one, that's when they would deal with the current truck that would be out of rotation.
In the 98 pages of specifications, 98, is that the way all 3 of the fire engine companies operate? You have to tell us what you want first, and we'll build it custom to fit your... Okay.
It's either put it out, like collectively get together with the department, or understand the availability, what's on those trucks, and have them tell you what specifications are available. This way, they're being transparent, all the vendors, this is what we want on the truck, and hopefully we get sealed bids for prices for those specifications.
A lot of specs.
A lot of specs.
I've asked this question a couple times now, but for the sake of public assurance, the specifications associated with this truck are expected to fit in the current fire station, correct?
They are.
All right.
They got the tape measure out there on a Thursday night to make sure.
Good question.
Any other comments? Is there a motion?
Yeah, move that we approve the new fire truck specs as to be advertised.
Support. Motion by Mr. Byer, support by Mr. Weed. Roll call?
Mr. Nordine, yes. Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Gasky,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Vector truck repairs.
All right, the township's Vector truck has not been operational since the end of November 2019. Based on a diagnosis from Jack Dehaney Company, the tank on the Vector truck needs to be replaced. It was originally taken down there to be evaluated to see if ribs could be placed on the outside of the tank and if that would hold for stability. Unfortunately, that is not an option. So your packet contains my December 10th of 2019 email to the Township Board concerning the Vector truck tank repair quote totaling $61,170.26 from the Jack Dehaney Company. Half the cost, or $30,585.13, to be split between the sewer fund, $590,974 for capital improvement outlay, and the other half, or the same $30,585.13, to be paid out of the water fund, $591,794 capital improvement outlay. A new Vector truck is not scheduled to be purchased until 2022, and based on the Township Board approval for the capital improvement plan. Due to Eagle's requirement to inventory every water service lead in the township, the Vector truck will be heavily used for the foreseeable future, and this is not a cost that can be pushed into the future. Due to the timing issues on the Vector tank failure happening at the end of 2019, and the costs not incorporated into the 2020 appropriations, this repair will likely necessitate a future budget adjustment for the 2020 appropriations in both Fund 590 for sewer and 591 for water. And this repair requires Township Board approval.
Comments?
If this was approved, how long are they gonna have the truck back in service?
So it'll be, the major is getting the tank ordered so that it can be produced and come. It'll be 8 weeks till we get the truck back.
So in the meantime, what do we do if we have an emergency?
This is the next action item associated with
truck rental?
city sewer cleaners and what that costs to mobilize. The closest company is out of Saginaw to come up here and be able to do what's needed.
We repaired this truck, and in 2022, it's on the capital improvement plan to buy a new one. Is that still the game plan?
That would be the game plan, and why that would be the game plan is the inventory associated with making sure every service lead is properly inventoried to Eagle standards. So this is going to be heavily used to be able to suck up and verify what is in that service lead. So we're going to be doing thousands of those checks. And so it would be the preference to be able to exhaust the current Vector truck before buying a new one and performing heavy use on that brand new one, performing the Eagle required inventory of those service leads. So beat up the old one before
Buy the new one.
buy the new one for $500,000.
Then my next question is, how long does it take to produce one of those, or do we have to special order it to meet Eagle requirements?
I don't know if for a new Vector truck,
Yeah.
I don't know if that will be 98 pages of specifications like the fire truck, but it's a $500,000 piece of equipment,
That's what
and
I'm
you're
getting
gonna
at.
you're gonna need to tailor that to the specific system it's gonna be used on for the water and sewer fund.
If it requires 18 months to get one, we gotta order it early.
Well, that and Mr. Freeman from Rowe on Friday had alluded to the potential, for an SRF grant to be able to have the purchase at least partially covered by grant. We would, we're paying Rowe to be able to apply for those grants to help offset potentially partial of that $500,000 from grant funding.
Any further comments?
Proper training will be done on the new Vector truck with all people that are going to be using it?
So the final implosion of the tank actually happened during training. So nobody could point fingers between, who done it. It was on site, everybody witnessed the final implosion of the tank. Obviously, we had brought in an expert to be able to do the training and all the attachments associated between DPW and F&V operations. So based on that training, that's when the final implosion happened, and that's why it's down with Jack Dehaney right now.
Any other comments?
Are you familiar with Jack Dehaney? He's in your state, your former state.
Columbus.
Yeah. Ever heard of this company?
I have.
Okay.
The north side of Columbus.
Thumbs up?
Thumbs up.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that we authorize the Vector truck repairs for $61,170.26 for Jack Dehaney.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Gajewski, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call?
Mr. Gajewski,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes, Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Vector truck rental.
All right, as was alluded to before, what do we do between now and when we get the truck back? So your packet contains a memo from January 7th from F&V Operations Project Manager concerning the quote for sanitary sewer cleaning from City Sewer Cleaners. And again, City Sewer Cleaners, that's the closest company out of Saginaw to be able to come up here and perform the approximately 1,000 feet of sanitary sewer line on Sky Street, located on the former Wurtsmith Air Force Base, needs to be cleaned for a cost not to exceed $2,460 to be paid out of the Sewer Fund 590-000-930.000 for repairs and maintenance. Unfortunately, the Vector truck is not available to perform the cleaning due to the previously discussed action item, and this requires Township Board approval.
Comments?
Does this include wind chill time transporting from Saginaw to Oscoda and back?
That the major is mobilization back and forth.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
I move that we authorize City Sewer Cleaners of Saginaw to work for us on a temporary basis for an amount not to exceed $2,460.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Byer, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call?
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Gajewski,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes, Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Trackless sidewalk snow machine.
All right, so what I want to point out is basically, based on a discussion with the board, you'll see within there for the quote, with the 5-position folding plow included as an attachment, the total would be $148,812 associated with this. And your packet contains a memo dated the 26th of November of 19 from the DPW supervisor recommending the purchase of a new trackless MT7 snow machine. The township has historically fielded numerous complaints on an annual basis regarding the dangerous conditions for pedestrians on the sidewalks along F41 between Cedar Lake Road and the former Wurtsmith Air Force Base. The township does not currently have equipment capable of removing snow from that stretch of sidewalk. Due to several issues, the township and the Iosco County Road Commission were not able to work out a solution where the township could pay the road commission to remove the snow from this stretch of sidewalk. This necessitates the township to move up the purchase of the required equipment by 1 year from 2021 to 2020 on the township's capital improvement plan. Bell Equipment has allowed the township to demonstrate with the used model of the trackless MT5 to remove the snow along that stretch of F41. So basically, the current machine is an MT5. It's 20 years old. It's a model 2000, and it's been used in Delta Township for the last 20 years. Based on the recommendation from the DPW supervisor, your packet contains a quote detailing the new model of a trackless municipal tractor MT7 plus a 51-inch ribbon snowblower with a sidewalk chute and a 5-position folding plow for a total amount of $148,812. Based on our conversation at the work session last Friday, we're going to be working out the specific amounts for the specific funds to be determined as far as the general fund, the public improvement fund, 245, the property operations and maintenance fund, 236, and potentially fund 248 for the DDA. Bell Equipment has the My Deal state contract to sell the trackless MT7 and accessories, and the pricing provided is reflected in both the tractor, the snowblower, and the 5-position plow. Your packet also contains the warranty information on the trackless MT7. If this purchase is approved by the Township Board, this would help avoid the public safety issues associated with pedestrians walking in lanes of traffic along F41 during the inclement weather months. There is another attachment available as far as the broom that we could schedule in subsequent years of the capital improvement plan.
Comments?
At Friday's meeting, I brought up the fact that I'd like to see DDA's money that's left in their checking account, a portion of that go towards that purchase, because they do utilize it in the downtown district. And we have an ordinance where the business owners are supposed to shovel their own businesses and take care of that. But they have relied on the township to take care of that for them. So I really would like to see that money go towards that purchase. That's been a long-standing argument for me. I've always said that since we've talked about getting a different tractor instead of it coming out of the general fund. I was in a business when they were doing the snow plowing downtown, and just an example of, it's nice that we do that for them, but the business owner, their employees were complaining that we didn't do their side street, the other side of the business, when we aren't even supposed to be doing it in the first place. So just kind of goes to show you. But, you know, hopefully we can utilize some of that money towards that purchase.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Correct.
Yeah. That's too bad they don't understand the situation well.
Right.
Dave, I'm sure I'm missing something here, but you're talking about 148,000, blah, blah, blah. My packet says 141,952. What am I missing?
All right, so in that quote, the 5-position plow is in that as well. And based on a discussion, they asked to be presented with what would it cost associated with that plow. Not just the snow blower, but the plow associated with that. So the 148,812 represents $6,860 added to get the 5-position folding plow. So your packet says 141,952. If the board wants to approve the plow, that additional 6,860 would be a total of $148,812.
Well, this machine doesn't work without a plow, does it? I mean, what?
Right now, there's a snow blower attachment on it.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive to see it go through the snow. The whole problem with F41 is the road commission uses the plow, or their blade pushes up the slop. It's no longer snow that goes up onto that sidewalk. Once that hits, that's not snow that you're removing from the sidewalk. The current holder machine doesn't even have a tenth of the horsepower associated with this machine. So that holder machine is not gonna touch that stretch of sidewalk. This goes right through it. So the DPW's been very impressed with the trackless machine.
Why do they call it a trackless machine?
That's the name of the company.
It's a four-wheel drive, Jim, without tracks.
Oh,
It's a four-wheel drive vehicle without rubber tracks on it.
so it's got
trackless.
it has four wheels?
Yeah, four-wheel drive tractor with a snowplow in the front.
I guess my final comment was I think the DPW did a nice job this past weekend. I mean, the sidewalks downtown along 23 were cleared Sunday afternoon, weekend, and the snow probably quit Sunday morning. So, good job.
This will increase efficiency for them to be able to get that job done.
Jamie, can I ask, so I may have not heard the explanation about what you passed out here before the meeting. Maybe it was from the Friday work session, which I wasn't able to attend. So I don't know if it was just new or if this was something discussed on Friday. Oh, that came from you. Sorry. It had Jamie McGuire across the top. Okay. Never mind. Okay, fair enough. That's the way the report looked. Okay, sorry.
That's
Nope.
okay.
I'm mixing them up. That's Jamie, and this one's Dave. Sorry about that. All right, well, hi, Dave. So it looks like we have, just $8,600 left in Fund 248, which
Well,
represents DDA?
That's why I didn't want to come with the adjustments as far as how it will be split between funds.
Yeah.
I need to understand how we can incorporate funds from the DDA
Okay.
into the purchase to be able to split it 4 ways instead of 3 ways.
Okay.
There's $49,534.78 in the DDA checking account.
What was that number again?
49,534 and some change. Don't quote me on the 78 cents.
Fair enough. Yeah. A little less than 50,000.
Yeah.
Is any of that earmarked, like something like where we've written a check or we're expecting to have to clear or something like that?
We are in the process of checking with some of the streetscape vendors and things like Hargers, Flowers, Enchanted Blooms to make sure that they have everything turned in for 2019.
Okay.
Because historically, they've turned things in late and then we get them and we need to take care of it. So,
Yeah,
2 or 3 months later. they'll
so
send you a bill.
yeah.
right. Okay. So, okay.
Oh, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I'm still thinking. Go ahead.
Okay. I am supportive of the increase in efficiencies of plowing the sidewalks, and I recognize the public safety aspect of F41. I fielded quite a few calls the last couple of years about, the inaccessibility of that path in the winter. The cost of this equipment is causing me to pause in approving it. The last time we considered snow removal equipment happened to be the first meeting of my term, and I went back to recall better, but the last motion was to continue utilizing the current machine while continuing to look for a lower priced machine. And then there was some wording involving the DDA partnering. And that machine under consideration at that meeting was roughly $85,000. Now there's been a change in administration since then, and a lot of things have happened. But just consistency-wise, from that point to this point is just the thing I'm trying to weigh and consider.
Totally different, John. They were looking like I was involved with that. We were looking at replacing the holder with another holder.
Yeah,
This is 10 times the holder.
sure.
It's a lot bigger.
And the things that
So the
have
cost is gonna generate.
and the things that have me caught in the middle here are there's the attachments. This potentially can be, it seems from what I've understood and learned, it can be used year round for different things with different attachments potentially. So then there's more utility, more efficiency.
Exactly.
So it helps justify a greater cost, but that's the things I'm weighing, considering last time this came to the board. So,
So what are you looking at for splits on the funding?
So what I'd like to be able to see is 25% of that cost split between general fund 101. It would be the Fund 245, which is the Public Improvement Fund, Fund 236, and then potentially Fund 248. So a quarter of each one of those four funds.
236 is,
Property O&M.
okay, that's the O&M. And what was the other one?
Fund 245 is Public
Capital
Improvement Fund,
Got that one.
and 101, General Fund, 101 265 is Township Hall and Grounds.
265, okay.
It's General Fund 101, but then the cost center is 265.
So 5 wins.
4.
You just said 248, 101, 236, 245, and 265?
General Fund is 101-265. The cost center is 265 for
Gotcha.
Township Hall and Grounds.
All right, so 25% then, that's $37,203.
Yep.
you're saying per,
Per, split
Allotment.
4 ways, 148, 812, 25% of that.
my only caution would be, my main caution with the DDA would be that extra 2 mills that was levied for, I forget the wording, operations, but there's some restriction that goes along with that. We would just want to make sure with the origins of the money that are in the checking account, what strings might be attached.
Between 248 and
That's what I'm asking.
252.
Yep.
Precisely is what I don't want to lock in that funding until we know we got it in Fund 248.
Yeah, because already from, I guess these are your notes then. But
Yep.
already these notes are showing that, and I can't tell what's showing encumbered funds, but it only leaves us $8,600. If that's, or thereabouts. I mean, it sounds like you have a different balance than he started out with, but roughly speaking, it's in that ballpark.
And the two funds, 248 and 252, are in the same checking account. So,
I see.
in 252, we were only supposed to use it for the building and the maintenance, that type of thing.
Operating.
Correct.
Operating.
So that's why we got to be clear what we can use from 248.
Well, maybe, I'd be happy if you deferred this to another meeting, but here's a question, I'm just wondering, because we haven't really heard much about the DDA or how any of this is being handled since we closed it down last April. So does this mean that, the checking account has been pretty, quiet, since then? I mean, I'm sure we've been paying some
Just utilities,
bills and-
just
yeah.
utilities.
Okay.
And like flowers and different things that have trickled in from the summertime, that type of thing.
Okay, so at some point, it's gonna become part of our common checking account and not the separate checking account that it
And,
is at the
and
moment.
my goal is the sooner the better.
Okay, yeah,
So
all right,
one less thing that we got to deal with.
exactly, okay.
One more question, Dave. As I understand it here, 2 DPW people tested out this trackless, but it was a 20-year-old from Delta Township, but they were really impressed with it, right?
The amount of horsepower,
Where did they test it?
on F41 to make sure that they could get through.
We haven't had any snow to give them a real test.
Well, this week,
This week,
yeah,
yeah.
it was bad on F41.
We still
and
have it,
When
right?
you
But I
drive
mean,
home,
I-
look at it.
Yeah,
It's
well,
amazing.
this packet was made. This packet was made up Thursday before the storm.
Sure.
Was there enough snow on Thursday or Wednesday or Tuesday to have a good test?
Yeah, they've had it since November.
They've done it twice or 3 times. They blew snow with it, Jim.
Okay,
And I
There's
watched them Sunday.
yeah. And there was enough snow to really challenge this
Even
machine.
went through the intersection of 41 and Cedar Lake Road.
Mhm.
It didn't even feller it, nothing. It just walked right through 4 foot of snow, wet, heavy snow.
Okay. Okay.
Well, like Dave was saying, the county throws that up onto that sidewalk there, and then it freezes there.
Yeah.
And when you go home on F41 check, it's like a clear path right through all of it.
Right.
I know people walking on that road
It
at
is
night.
Scary.
Yeah,
Whoa.
Scary.
you really need to take care of
In the
that.
winter, so.
Yeah.
Any other comments? I make a motion we approve $148,812 for the trackless MT7 with snow blower, plow, and attachments from Bell Equipment, with those funds to be split between the 4 different funds accounts of 248, 101, 236, 245, at 25% each, to be adjusted accordingly if there are some restricted DDA funds preventing it to reach to that 25% in the DDA fund.
Get all that, John?
Still writing?
Pen smoke it.
Exactly.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Weed, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call?
Ms. McGuire.
Yes.
Mr. Cummings.
Yes.
Mr. Gasky.
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, no. Mr. Byer.
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. 2020 appropriations adjustment for the trackless sidewalk snow machine.
All right, I guess I would ask to defer this action item until the meeting on the 27th, when we can give you a detail of what's coming out of which fund.
That's good.
I make a motion that the 2020 appropriations adjustment for trackless sidewalk snow machine be postponed.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Weed, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call?
Mr. Cummings.
Yes.
Ms. McGuire.
Yes.
Mr. Gasky.
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Byer.
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Road proposal for engineering services.
All right, so there are gonna be several components that I'm asking the board in the same motion, all right? So in this, I would ask the board to move forward with the application for the CDBG-IR. Approve the proposal from Rowe as far as the application, design engineering, and construction engineering. So your packet contains an email from the 26th of November of 2019, and this email was from Lindsay Miller. She's the CAT team specialist from MEDC. This is concerning competitive funding announcement through the state of Michigan's Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Infrastructure and Resiliency Program, IR. So the CDBG IR. It's a high-level overview of the CDBG IR program on the MEDC's website, and a memo dated the 8th of January from Rick Freeman concerning the CDBG IR application process, and a memo dated the 7th of January 2020 from Rick Freeman concerning the design and construction engineering services associated with the township's potential 1.7 million CDBG IR project. Mr. Freeman he attended the work session last Friday, kind of explained the process in detail, and the deadlines are fast approaching in this competitive process to obtain the up to 1.7 million in CDBG IR funding. The announcement of this funding was made the 26th of November 19. Mr. Freeman and I attended a CDBG-IR a conference call on the December 19th, getting all of the questions answered about the funding, and the deadline for the application is February 14th, basically a month from now. And even with this very tight time frame, the township is well positioned to obtain grant funding due to the extensive planning process for extending municipal water mains to address the area of concern caused by PFAS pollution from the former Wordsmith Air Force Base. The CDBG-IR application process, estimated to be approximately $2,500, would be covered under the township's as-needed contract with Rowe, and the $217,365 design and construction engineering proposal requires township board approval. If selected to receive the CDBG-IR funding, Rowe's engineering services would qualify for reimbursement by the infrastructure project funding obtained.
Comments?
In the papers, there's a description of some drone services needed. Is that correct? Am I looking at the right one? Am I on the right item?
What page are you?
It's hard to sometimes look in the packet and know whether or not I've moved into another item. Give me a moment. Let me see if I can find it. It is, whoops, sorry. It is, right, I'm looking at page 40. Professional services bid form. Is that, what is this? Is this part of this?
That is part of the proposal associated with the advertise for RFP for digital marketing services.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. I've missed my place. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Oh, that's all right.
Mr. Freeman did reference Friday at the work session, though, that some flyover work had been done. He didn't mention how, what was used. I would only imagine it would be a drone. That was done for, what would it be, Phase 2, Loud Drive? That they've already done some of the sections they're talking about in this proposal.
And sorry, but a 5-second segue since you mentioned that, and thanks for bringing the tangent into the conversation. So the only concern is that being that we are in an airport area, that drones are not permitted unless you are actually a licensed drone operator with some specific licensing that deals with airports, and you have to get permission from the air tower and the whole bit. Otherwise, the fine on that footage to not take it down or even to get caught with it is significant. Just something I recently ran into this, not because of myself, but through somebody else who came across this. And
Funnily
I'm like,
enough, so have I. That's funny.
Holy Toledo.
I spent the weekend getting educated, and it may be something to look into because Mr. Freeman referenced the work had been done for Phase 1 that could be used and brought to bear on these projects. So, in the interest of not getting fined, it's something to look into. I think it's already, the work has potentially been completed, though. So.
There it is. So.
Okay, any other comments? Is there a motion?
So Dave, in the motion, you want the CDBG IR application by itself and then approve the other two also by themselves, or?
So I was hoping for 4 things.
Okay.
And then it's for the township board to move forward with the application for CDBG-IR. Consider approving Rowe's proposal for CDBG-IR application, design engineering, and construction engineering.
So 2 different motions or 4 separate? Can it all be in one motion? Or
You could consider, I guess, two motions, all right? Move forward with the application for CDBG-IR.
Okay. I was going to say that because I think in the past that the motion has to be by itself when it's a grant like that.
Right.
Okay, so I'll make the motion that we move forward with the CBDG IR application.
Good. Support.
Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call?
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes, Mr. Gieske,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed.
I'll make the motion that we move forward with the proposal from Rowe for the design, engineering, and construction engineering.
Support.
Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Byer. Roll call?
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Gasky,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Bond counsel.
All right, so I am not exactly certain the last time the township has obtained proposals for bond counsel legal representation. Based on the SAW grant rate study incorporated into the capital improvement plan, the township will be required to issue debt 4 times to make the necessary improvement to its sanitary sewer system. Therefore, this seemed like an ideal time for the township to obtain proposals for bond counsel legal representation. Your packet contains a string of emails with the Thrun Law Firm, the responses obtained, as well as references from the Thrun Law Firm. I'm asking for the Township Board's approval to award the Thrun Law Firm as the successful proposal for bond counsel and authorize both the supervisor and clerk to execute the proposed professional services contract for $15,000. This requires Township Board approval. Now, in your packet, you will see that's our standard professional services agreement. So in the response from Thrun Law Firm, in there, they make the caveat that the Thrun Law Firm accepts the contents of the township's proposed professional services contract agreement and the related obligations, with the following exception. Thrun Law Firm cannot agree to and expressly disclaims the terms of Section 6 of the agreement entitled Indemnification by the Professional. Instead, the township would have recourse with respect to any professional liability implicating the Thrun Law Firm pursuant to the firm's professional liability insurance. So anytime we have a professional services contract, we require them to put up insurance. So how I would like this for the board to consider would be to approve the professional services agreement with the understanding that the township attorney will review and incorporate language within Section 6, making both parties agreeable to the indemnification language.
Comments? Is there a motion?
Honestly, I'd like to help, but I'm not sure I got everything that Dave said, so I don't think I'd give a valid motion. Sorry, Dave.
Okay, so basically move forward with the township's bond counsel, so approving Thrun Law as the township's bond counsel. Authorizing the supervisor and clerk to execute the professional services contract for $15,000
Yep.
with the revisions incorporated by the township attorney.
All right, fine. So then I move that we approve Thrun Law as the township's bond counsel and authorizing the supervisor and clerk to execute the professional services contract for $15,000 with the changes from our counsel, our legal counsel, to, Section 6.
Indemnification.
Section 6 regarding,
Indemnification.
indemnification. Thank you.
And people in the audience should know we did receive 3 bids for this, and the other 2 were 17,000 and 18,000.
yeah.
So this is a low bid.
I'll support it.
Motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Gasky. Roll call?
Mr. Gasky,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. EMS rent owed to Iosco County.
All right, so the last time the township paid rent to Iosco County for a portion of the EMS building used by the Oscoda area first responders was December of 2017. Based on my calculation, the township owes Iosco County $3,937.50 for 21 months' worth of rent to be paid out of 101-890-000 general fund. The board should note that the rent payments prior to 2018 were paid out of the general fund unallocated 101,299 880.100 for community promotion first responders. Your packet contains my email correspondence with the Iosco County Administrator on the 3rd of January 2020, a detail of the rent Oscoda Township owes Iosco County, and a letter from Oscoda Township terminating its lease with Iosco County. And this requires Township Board approval.
Comments?
So how did we miss so many payments? Did they not notice we weren't paying them, or?
They never billed, they didn't send us a bill for the payments on a monthly basis. And it was staff's, when we would get through the new year, or through the end of the year, then, well, this case, it would have been the superintendent's office would generate saying, please make a list for the next year to include these payments to be made to these places on a monthly basis. And we didn't get that, so they never got paid. I can't pay it if we don't have a bill to pay it.
Well, right, I mean, it's kind of like the grave openings that we had,
Right.
that we had got behind on as well. We never get an invoice for that. It's just this understood payment, I guess, or how does that go? I mean, I don't understand how we do
Aren't we
that.
under contract to pay regardless of whether we receive a bill or not?
I don't know if we have a contract or not. I don't have a copy of that contract.
So no one from the county contacted you about this?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Recently.
EMS rent, so it would have been the EMS director, Mr. Scott Kernicki said, hey, I know you guys are paying rent to the county, but can we store an ambulance in there? I said, I don't know what you're talking about, Scott. We're not paying rent.
What rent?
And then we did some research, like, oh, okay, we should have been paying rent.
Okay.
So we owe the county $3,937.50.
And that would pay them through September of 2018, while the Oscoda area first responders were still in existence.
Okay, and then there's your letter of terminating also that's gonna go along with that?
I sent the county administrator, as soon as I understood that we owed rent, a formal, said, we are terminating our contract,
Already done.
our lease, and we don't want to pay rent anymore. And Oscoda Township has been paying rent. They haven't paid since they made their last payment in September. So we're trying to follow suit.
So there was a lease?
There is a lease.
Who has the lease?
There is a lease. There is a lease. I can send that out to the board.
I mean, where did you find it?
In old emails from 2015.
Wow,
2015.
so this is some years ago.
Yes. That's how I understood we needed to terminate the lease. That's why I gave the Iosco County Administrator formal notice that we are no longer interested in leasing
Right.
that building or space within that building.
I know this has nothing to do with the lease, but where's all the equipment?
So a lot of the first responders' equipment was donated to the fire department, and we're in the process with working with the first responders chief to be able to get titles signed over for an expedition and a Suburban that would then be presented to the board.
So we have possession of the materials though, all the equipment. The township does.
Well, I don't know about that ambulance. The ambulance, I believe, is going to be donated to the county. But what the lease, and I'll make reference in my email, anything left in that building becomes property of the county. So if they leave that ambulance, that becomes property of the county.
That's what my next question was.
I don't know who to ask the question to, but is there some way we can know if there are other things which we should be paying or haven't been paying or whatever, because this happens to be a relatively small amount, at just under $4,000, but it was unbudgeted. So we've got it comes out of the money we thought would have been contingency or unallocated for this year. So I was just wondering, I'm just like, do we have anything else that we think
We
floating
can,
around?
when the auditors are here this year, we can go through and check out all the different leases, make a list, and come up with a plan from the department heads and the accounts payable.
But to
Why do
your
we
point,
have to
oh, I'm
wait for
sorry.
the auditors?
But we don't have to. We can, what if well, obviously there was one every one of us missed, so maybe the auditors would have a different, list or be able to recognize something that's not.
What do you mean every one of us missed? I didn't get it. Sorry.
Well, none of us caught that we weren't paying the county for their space for the first responders.
Right.
So we can sit down and talk about it, but
Yeah.
if we can't locate a lease or different thing or who's going to know if we're missing one? Another one, if
Right.
that's what your concern
Yeah, well, I
is.
was just trying to make sure. I'm just
Right.
trying to, because we've already had two now. I'm trying to what else could there be? I don't know. Something's not working. I was just wondering how to plug the hole.
What other one did we miss?
The grave openings.
Oh,
Yeah. So I was just trying to find out what it was. Is there a list we were supposed to have, or we forgot to look at it, or it didn't get entered? To your point, Jamie, if I was in your position, I'd be like, yeah, I want paper. Give me
yeah.
give me
I
a bill.
definitely
It's
want
like,
paper. Yeah, I can't
it's
pay
like-
it if I don't have something to pay by.
yeah, but at the same time, if it's a lease agreement, nobody's going to send me an invoice for my lease payment. So
Right. But if I don't have a copy of the lease either, then
yeah, I understand. Yeah,
Right.
I get it. So
pretty hard to.
I'm just trying to find a way to plug the hole.
Right, me too.
So
Maybe that ambulance worth $4,000?
I don't know.
you're funny.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve $3,937.50 for rent owed to Iosco County, with where that's going to come from
101.
being the 101-890-000.000 general fund contingency.
With support.
Motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Byer. Roll call?
Mr. Byer,
Yep.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Gieske,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes, Mr. Weed.
Yes. Upcoming training opportunities.
All right, there are two training opportunities I'm requesting the board to approve. Your packet contains a tentative Michigan Municipal Executives Winter Institute in Gaylord, Tuesday the 28th through Friday the 31st of January, and the Advanced Management and Supervisory Leadership Training Program hosted by the City of Saginaw for the Public Utilities and Waterworks Management Institute, Monday, February 24th through Wednesday, February 26th. Both to be paid out of the general fund. Superintendent Cost Center 101-172-960.000 for conference, education, and training. The MME Winter Institute represents one of the two primary conferences hosted by MME each year, and the other institute is typically held in the summer months. The anticipated cost for attendance, including lodging, is expected to be approximately $900. The leadership training in Saginaw costs $499 and will only require one night lodging. Cost will be approximately $750.
Comments? Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the two amounts, $900 and $750, for two training programs for Mr. Schaefer.
Support. Motion by Mr. Byer, support by Mr. Weed. Roll call?
Mr. Nordine, yes, Mrs. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Byer,
Yep.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Gieske,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. We're on to our second public comment period. Anyone may speak. There's a 4-minute time limit. Please introduce yourself when you come up to the podium.
Larry Holland, representing Tier 4 Technical Support. Real quick, when we're talking about fiber optics and these updates that are coming out every month, first thing I want to say is that bandwidth is how big your highway is. How many cars can you fit down the highway all at once? Speed is how long it takes one of those cars in one of those lanes to get from point A to point B. Two different things. Asynchronous transport is where you have more download than you have upload, but that it doesn't mean that they don't transmit at the same time. Charter broadband transmits in both directions at the same time, just at different speeds. So I want to correct that for everybody here because Oscoda Township is the franchise administrator for Charter Communications. And Oscoda Township happens to be dumping them as a service provider in a number of areas in lieu of fiber optics. The thing that's upsetting here is that that did not go out to bid, which I heard earlier. So less than 600 feet away from the township offices, there's over 20 fiber optic service providers. 20 fiber optic service providers. I decided to see how long it would take to do a fiber project. So I went from the beach all the way down US 23, all the way down to where G's Pizzeria is, and into the Tier 4 building. And it took around 45 days. I'm up and running on some super fast, big bandwidth fiber optics in good old Oscoda Township. But it gets better. I have 51 call paths. The township ordered 23 call paths. I'm up and running on that. Second thing, when you start to think about 20 different service providers, what better deal could have been had right down the road from where this fiber runs, right by the township, if it went out to bid? And let me tell you something. When I sell a cloud-based phone system, I give the handsets away for free. I give them. If that would have went out to bid, I would have had fun giving the township free handsets and just charge the service fee to the service provider. By the way, I represent 3 different cloud providers, but have access to 60 of them if it goes out to bid, because I shop for my customers what the best deal is in that circumstance. That's a big deal. I don't like no bid. I like the opportunity for economic development to happen right here in this community, because I had to pull the fiber all the way through the sewers, cut up part of the sidewalk, get up into the telephone poles and get into my building, and that was on me. And if I can do it in 45 days, a big bad township that's spending lots of money tonight should be able to do that in a heck of a lot sooner time, especially if it goes out to bid. Economic development begins with private investment into the local communities. And that's exactly what companies like mine are doing, is putting stuff into the ground that's going to be usable for time over past whatever we're operating with. And here's the other thing, is that the totality of the human experience in any particular 24-hour period of time produces 50 gigabits of data. Tim says that they have 50 megabits of data, which is an order of magnitude much smaller than that. So when I installed fiber, I installed capacity for 300 gigabits right in lowly old Oscoda. And it's going to give me the opportunity to connect and interconnect with the Detroit Internet Exchange and a lot of other aspects, because this is direct internet access. It's not broadband, it's direct dedicated access. And if these things go out to bid, especially if the township picks up and moves their building to a new location, they better put it out to a local bid, because it can be done cheaper, it can be done much faster, and it can be done better.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Robert Jackson again. I just want to comment what he was saying, because I took notes earlier, and one of the notes was, who contacted ATI for the fiber? And was it the only bid that was given out? These are things that I was thinking of. I didn't even know this gentleman. But like he said, something's going on here that it didn't go out to everybody. It was only to certain people. And this is all that I like to say. You know, as far as the problems with the phone system, I was never contacted about a phone that was out of order. I would have repaired it if I was contacted. I wasn't contacted. So in the future, hopefully, if your problems have phone problems, hopefully it gets back to the, you know, the consumer.
Again, my name is Rick Koenig. I wanted to state something on this information that's been going between Mr. Brightson, Mr. Schaefer, and Mr. Aldrich. I want to make a quote here from Mr. Aldrich. When he heard about this, Mr. Aldrich was mad and claimed heads will roll. He said it will be cleaned up. 9/25 of 18, myself, meaning Mark Brightson and David Schaefer, had called Mr. Aldrich and advised him there were 2 piles of debris and that only the tires were removed from the original pile. Aldrich said everything has been cleaned up and to go find something better to do with my time. He started spouting off about barns on 31 that need their trash picked up, so go earn my money and pick on them. That's what kind of person Stan Aldrich is. That's who we're dealing with here. The guy is doing something illegal on this dump. I don't know why it's got to be that complicated for me to come and bring pictures and all that for a road that's illegally dumped on to be taken care of. If Lakewood's not going to do it, you guys have the authority to have the township do it or to have somebody else do it and charge them on their taxes for it. But like I said, this is the kind of person that you're dealing with, and you're trying to scare him, and it's not working. He's not paid, you know, $100. I guess I need to know who's in charge of this. Who do I go to talk to at a one-on-one, or I try to talk to everybody here, but I mean, this is ridiculous, you know? $100 to a millionaire that dumps concrete and everything. I brought pictures. I bring everything, and I can't get an answer from anybody. I mean, I've talked to a few of you on the side about it, but who do I have to talk to get this taken care of? Is it Mark Brightson I need to talk to, or is it Mr. Schaefer?
It's me.
It's you.
Yes.
Okay, because earlier I was at his office and I was told him. So can I make an appointment to speak with you about this situation?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I needed to know. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I had a couple of questions. Jamie, you had mentioned. Hi.
Hi.
You had mentioned about the snow shoveling in front of the businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a favor from the township? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's an ordinance, I believe, that says the business owners are supposed to take care of their sidewalks.
Never knew that.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been told. I always shoveled my snow before they even got there years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that was just something that I did. I'm not being able to do that type of thing anymore. I'd have to hire somebody. But the point of it is that I always had done that. Never knew. So that's not something we get for all the taxes we pay.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Well, you are because they're doing it, but
Well, they
yeah.
are doing it. Okay, now, but you know, it's making
Yeah.
me feel like you're doing a favor now.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing was that this gentleman here, we're talking about you're part of the Blighton area and all that. Is this what you're working on? Is that what that is? No, it hasn't. The development that doesn't have anything to do with the empty buildings or anything like that.
Yeah, but when you said blight, I thought you were referring to this.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't come out right.
Vacant buildings, yeah.
Okay, so I did hear something on the order of that people were going to get charged for empty buildings every year or something for like a penalty type thing. I heard something on that order. Is that, am I saying it right or no? Not okay. Not you. Not
That's
under your authority.
Zoning, a new ordinance that they're working on.
Okay. So there is going to be some type of a charge to people with empty buildings or Is it because they're not fixed up or because they're empty or?
I don't know the details, and maybe Bob could address that.
Okay, all right. Okay, I appreciate that. The other thing was too is that, again, that Mr. Weed, I'm not gonna go away. So I'm gonna continue coming and saying what I have to say and everything else, and I just think that the community deserves some type of word from you concerning Furtaw Field. I mean, it's just going on a long time, and I mean, I'm not sure what else you want me to do is to continue putting out signs, getting more signatures, having a rally, doing whatever it takes to, but, you know, I know you're getting sick of me, so I'm getting, oh, it's not bothering you, because actually you don't have.
I enjoy your company at every meeting.
Oh, I'm sure you do, but I'm not enjoying this anymore. You know, this is getting very upsetting to be able to come up here and feel like the community has to beg you to make a decision on something that almost the whole community is against. And you want us to be a part of all this, and you want us to come up and say something, and when we do, it feels like we're being ignored. So, that's all I gotta say.
I think, you know, you've said you're being ignored twice now, earlier and just now.
That's what it feels like.
But don't you think if you and others that are opposed to the Furtaw Field site, if you hadn't expressed your views and done the signs and stuff, that project would be underway way more than it is. The fact that it's on the back burner and you don't hear about it, I interpret that as that somebody is paying attention to your concerns.
I understand that, Mr. Byer, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, I'm having a really hard problem understanding why they would even think of taking Furtaw Field. With everything else that's out there, why would it be Furtaw Field? I mean, I think that's about the most upsetting thing that I could ever hear. And I've been here 24 years. We talked about the fact you've been here 6. That's why you don't know the feelings of Furtaw Field with the people that are here. I can imagine how 40 and 50 people, I mean, that have been here 40 and 50 years feel. So it's just time. It's time to tell the people.
Robert Tazier. I would like a little bit to clarify something that is being said. I don't think it's fair for Mr. Weed to be for people to go after Mr. Weed on this subject of Furtaw Field. And I'm going to tell you why. There's 7 people here that vote on that. It's not just Mr. Weed on this discussion about what's happening with Furtaw Field. It's the Board of Trustees. They are in the decision-making process. The last time I recall, the supervisor does not have the authority to make any kind of decision involved. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe he has the authority to make a decision about Furtaw Field at all. This board does. So the concerns about Furtaw Field, I feel for you, they are real for you in this case, but please direct it to the Board of Trustees and not single out an individual, because he may have spoke at public meetings about Furtaw Field, but he's also stated that this is a board decision. So one vote does not make that decision.
No, it doesn't.
7 votes, majority vote is the way it needs. So let's be fair about that. Let's make that fair. The other thing I want to talk about really quickly is the Planning Commission, which I am a member of. I'm the vice chairman. It deals with land use, ordinances and land use, and being part of the blight issue which has been brought up. There are ordinances, and in addressing what your concerns are, this past year a new resolution by this board has been passed about civil infractions and how that works. And it's no longer a $100 fine. It's a civil infraction ticket that you get a court appearance. I also would like to know why this is not happening. If there is a documented case of blight in our community, then this needs to be addressed. Because bad enforcement means bad ordinances, and we can't have that. In order to have good things happen in the community, we have to have strong enforcement of good law. And I think the planning commission, I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for my duties, and I take it serious that when we write ordinances, we look at all aspects of an ordinance, we present the best possible ordinance we can to this board to approve that ordinance. And once that approves, this board approves, 8 days later, that's law. And I stand by the law. Now, we can make amendments to things if it's bad, but there's a whole process that you have to go through to do that, and we do that all the time. I'm meeting on that tomorrow. So, yes, amending bad ordinances is what our job is in land use. So, and part of I just wanted to stress that about blight. Blight is a very big concern in our community, and we have changed laws for that. So, that's it.
Vacant building.
Oh, yeah, can you answer?
Can you
the question
describe
about
that
the-
for us?
Vacant building. Vacant building ordinance is been successfully utilized in many communities throughout the state of Michigan. It's not that you're being charged for having a vacant building. If it comes to a point 2 years down the road, if you don't register your vacant building, there are many things that can opt out of you being charged a fine, such as have your building up for lease? Are you have it up for sale? Are you keeping it blight, flea, and free of breaking any other ordinances? All of these things, there are several areas of outs so you don't get fined. It's a measure that in several communities very successfully has used to help development of buildings, so that developers can come in, see buildings that are now blight, flea, free, clean, better representation of the community, and make it more attractive for developers to come in. And that's just one of the tools. But to focus on an enforcement end and not focus on the other aspects of the ordinance, you need to read the whole ordinance to be fair and get an opinion that way. So a lot of times we have a tendency to focus on what the penalties are, but we're not looking at what the benefits are of how it worked in other communities. So when you look at what was brought forward at all of our town hall meetings and our public hearings for our master planning and all of the talk that we've had through redevelopment ready and form-based code, the open public hearings that we've had, the number one issue coming up were empty buildings in our downtown. So with that taking a priority, we listened to what was being said and we came up with a plan, and we had public hearings on these plans. And this is one of the things, one of the areas that we're presenting to this board on how to solve those problems that the people brought to us. And that's how the vacant building ordinance is coming about. So I just wanted to make that, I hope that clarifies it.
Does that include property of the township and empty?
That includes
property?
every building, nothing is excluded from the law.
Blight on 23 in the town, to me, looks like it's next to Gilbert's.
You're absolutely right, and that is being
And
addressed.
another piece that's owned by the township that was supposed to be developed at some point and isn't. It's the old gas station.
We don't own that.
You don't know that.
We don't own that.
what are you
someone
talking
said
about?
that they, or
No.
another piece or something.
That's
Something
why
that-
it's good to
I'm
research
sorry,
the
something
stuff
that
and
was
find
supposed
out
to
this
be-
information
I'm
so that
sorry.
it's not,
I
this person said
apologize.
this, so it must be real.
No, I'm sorry, I apologize, that was, someone had mentioned something about you putting bathrooms on a certain piece of property that was there, that was the township's, that's all. So maybe I'm misunderstanding which piece, but the biggest one is the one next to Gilbert's.
And the one next to Gilbert's Drugs, the medical center, that was given, and they presented a site plan that was approved by the planning commission. In that site plan, there were things that needed to be addressed, and it didn't come through on that first year.
Okay.
So they came back to the planning commission. Under law, they're allowed 2 extensions of a site plan. So they came back for their extension of that, legally extension for that site plan, and presented us with another one. They sent that out for bid. Now, the blight area does not cover that site plan, and they were called several times to come in there and clean that up. And they came in, and I'm not happy about it, knocked down some weeds and did something with the sign. And but we as a township need to go after them just like anybody else, and make it a priority to do what they say they're going to do, and to follow what we approved on the planning commission as a site plan. So that building, again, their extension will be up again, I believe, in April. So they got one more extension that can be allowed, but it's been going on for 2 years, and quite frankly, you know, it's an eyesore. It needs to be addressed. So hopefully the planning commission will have a plan to address
For
that.
the other property thing.
So
I just heard something.
is that?
Thank you for explaining that.
You realize that the township has not owned that corner for about 4 years, 4.5 years, something like that.
The one where the gas station was?
No,
the
we've
coming
never owned it.
soon,
Oh, yes, oh,
yeah, we don't,
Yeah, I know that.
yeah. In fact, we sold it to one entity, and it's been resold, I believe, to the Alcona Health people, so it's long gone from us.
And that's not gonna be a tax base, so either, is it? I mean, there's not gonna be any taxes coming out of that. Oh, there is? Oh, I was told by the, it was actually told by the doctor, right?
No.
Yeah, it's one of his, that they said if they owned the building, they wouldn't have to pay taxes. No. Okay, all right. I'm just saying what
Just
the
asking.
doctor said. So,
Anything else, Mr. Byer?
because it was a nonprofit
All
or
right.
something. Is that
Thank
what
you
it
very
is?
much. Anybody else wish to speak?
I'm sorry.
Okay, now we're on to board comments. Does anybody have anything?
I would just note the passing of, I wish I knew for sure, either he was the supervisor or the clerk, or maybe both, but Mr. Harry Simotis, at 94 years old, passed away this week. His funeral is in North Carolina, I believe, Wednesday. But he's a long-time elected official of Oscoda Township. And the father or the grandfather of everybody named Simotis in this town. Or great
I
grandfather.
think he was township clerk for 12 years,
Yeah.
something like that.
Any other board comment?
And I'd like to make a comment to Ms. Barber over here about the bathrooms. You got the corner wrong.
Oh,
Where Jones is, the township did acquire that property 10, 12 years ago. They cleaned it up. They sold it to Edward Jones. Before they sold it, they were thinking about putting restrooms on that corner. The DDA was, but it was shot down. Then Jones bought it and developed it. So that's where you got your information to misconstribute. Just want to straighten you out on that.
that's okay. I appreciate it. I knew I'd heard it. I just wasn't sure which corner it was.
Any other board comments? All right, then I will address a few things regarding the phone and internet system, because it's not just a phone system, it's also the internet system. The dollar figures that were brought to us a year ago showed that the amount of money spent on this was going to be a savings over what we're currently spending. Is that right? It's either going to be about the same or a little less than what we were over the long period of time.
Correct. It was a function of how many of these charter.
So we came out pretty good with what the system is that got set up. And it didn't just all of a sudden, hey, ATI, come out here and set up a system for us. This was actually derived from trying to get Old Orchard Park connected to the internet, which is very difficult to do. And Charter did provide a bid on that that was very expensive, which I believe was in excess of $50,000. ATI has offered to do that for far less. But they said in conjunction to that, we can also provide an additional service further down the line at your township hall. So then we said, okay, well, this sounds good. We can knock out two birds with one stone. Get an updated service that is not only faster, but also provides the security, the internet security that we need, because we have had a computer that was hijacked, I believe, 2 years ago. And along with many other things. So it's a very holistic approach to this that after reviewing what Charter had offered compared to what ATI offered was a definite benefit to the township. Now, for the length of time, we're not a business. We just can't go out and go signing contracts and saying, okay, make this happen, let's do it. We have to go through long legal reviews. We have to go through a lot of planning. We have to go through engineering studies. There's a lot involved in order to ensure that the township's not getting the short end of the stick. And that's to protect the best interests of the township and the taxpayer dollar. And in doing that, some of this time taken up was in negotiating the contract, because we're just not going to take a contract from some company and say, okay, yep, your contract looks great, let's do this, because there's usually a lot of things in there that a government can not do, is not allowed to do, and therefore the contracts have to be constantly adjusted, and those negotiations take a long time. Sometimes their legal teams are very slow at this. Some of that's a ploy on their part to try and get us to give in. For instance, a very simple one is a lot of contracts we've seen come through here in years past was indemnification clauses where the company said, we will do the work for you, but you will indemnify us for this work. Well, then apparently you don't stand by your product. Not only that, the law does not allow us to indemnify anyone except a higher level government agency. So you even have to negotiate those simple facts in it. So it's not an easy process as if we were just a business to get something done within 45 days. Much more extensive than that, especially with the changing dynamics that occurred over the year during that time. So do I have that information correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty sure that's how I remember it.
That's correct.
The other side of it, or the other thing of, let's see here. Franchise administrator for Charter Communications. We administer nothing for Charter Communications other than assessing the fee for their cables running under public lands. That's what they call a franchise. We don't own any part of Charter. We don't run Charter. People call us all the time saying they want their internet fixed. Just because we're Charter Township of Oscoda does not make us Charter Internet. Franchise on your bill means they pay a fee for having their lines under our land. That's it. Furtaw Field. So I had planned back when that we would have another work session in mid-January to address Furtaw Field. But dynamics have changed over that time. And I was hoping at this meeting that we would be scheduling that work session. However, the township consolidation that was started by a community group, not by the government, caused me to think that we should probably delay that. Because if a consolidation were to pass, that causes a whole series of changes the night of the election. And so having the new facility issue on top of that could present a problem. So now the county has made a decision, last week was it, or the week before, made a decision that it was not going to be on the ballot.
This year.
Correct.
Yeah.
This year's, thank you. But I don't know if this community group is going to contest that or not. So hopefully by the first meeting in February, we will know something a little better about that. Once we're a little clearer on that, then maybe we can address the new building issue. As far as the building being put up in 2 years, where did that come from? This is not a 2-year project. Once it gets started, it could be 5 years, it could be 8 years before that project gets built. If it even gets approved. But this board has not made a decision. This whole thing about we're not going away, I don't know where you got that from. I'm not worried about that. It's the last thing on my mind, whether you guys are going away or not.
I don't mean it that way. I just
So-
mean that
So that's my
build it whatever, but
That's my
Furtaw
2 cents
Field.
on the Furtaw Field thing. So there's a lot more that can change in just a month. But hopefully by the first meeting of February, maybe we can be a little clearer on this and know where we are. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
All right. Anybody have anything else? Then I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you for coming out.